Today, I have some exciting news for all the Adobe Premiere editors. Adobe Premiere Pro CC version 12.1.2 just released with some major features that will benefit 360 VR production. Now, Premiere finally supports natively the H.264 Vive Pro, the VR headset that I don't have.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it.
If you're a Mac user, Premiere will help with 360 VR video playback in H.264 or H.265 with the brand new hardware accelerated H.264 or HEVC decoding. It's like the perfect companion for the new Insta360 Pro No Stitch plugin. As you all know, most of the VR camera only gives you H.264 output, and it has been a challenge on playback on set with the MacBook Pro. Please make sure that update your Mac to the latest iOS to enjoy this new improvement. But the best feature of all, the feature I've been tested in the past couple weeks in the Adobe Premiere pre-release program, is the direct 8K render and output without any third-party plugin or FFMPEG with blazing speed. It supports up to 480 megabytes per second, the perfect for high 8K players like Vispit, which also support ridiculously high bitrate playback. Let me do some benchmarking rendering tests in both H.264 and H.265 for you, and a new 8K rendering tutorial with this new feature. Let's dive right in.
Hey, what's up everybody, it's your boy Hugh here from Creator Up. Now we are in Premiere. I'm in the newest version of 12.1.2. Here I have a clip of me flying a drone, which is the M600, with the Insta360 Pro in 8K with the Mozart Gimbal Air Stabilizer. So the footage looks really smooth, as you see right here. The footage is actually very smooth. I enjoy using a physical gimbal when possible on drone or any footage because I still love movement of a physical gimbal. Software stabilization is great like Mocha VR, but still does not have this realism and it's sometimes too stable. So with the little bit movement, it actually looks good. But again, we are not talking about drone or stabilization. We're talking about how to render 8K stereoscopic or monoscopic video from the brand new Adobe Premiere Pro update. So I just cut the first 5-second clip as a benchmark. I wanted to show you this sequence. This footage is shot at Insta360 Pro. It's in 8K mono and also in 60 frames per second. So if you're wondering how you can capture 60 frames per second in 8K with the Insta360 Pro, I actually capture that in 30 frames per second and render using the Insta360 Pro Stitcher. In the Stitcher, it allows using the optical flow increased frame rate feature can output actually 60 frames per second. And I found that with movement, with footage to have such a dramatic movement like this, if you actually play the footage, well, actually it's in 8K, so will not have a smooth playback. But as you see, the drone is moving very fast on this footage. So if you just show it in 30 frames per second on a VR headset, might not be ideal. So I actually want to output this in 60 frames, so we'll have a smoother playback on a VR headset. That's one thing that you can do only with the Insta360 Pro. It's one of the features to film this camera. So even in my old workflow with after codecs, 60 frames per second 8K is pretty challenging. So let's see if Premiere new feature can stand up with the output. So the 5-second clip, let's go ahead and hit export media. So in here, I'll go ahead and pick H.264. Go ahead and hit match source. So we have the 8K render. It's 8K monoscopic and also 60 frames. As you see, the output source is 8K with 60 frames per second output. And then right here, that is the other crazy part. So the target bitrate, you can go all the way up to 480 megabytes per second. If you have a crazy movement scene, actually like this one, its movement is really fast. You want to have a higher bitrate. Again, that is overkill even for 8K, especially 8K mono. So I think it's about, I would say, usually I think 200 should be alright. But since we're gonna demo this on Vispit, so just go ahead and go crazy. Let's go 300. So the quality should be really good with even such a fast moving shot. And then again, the video is VR, is monoscopic. With this feature, the codec is already embedded into the video, so you can upload on YouTube and it will work. There's no extra embed codec like what you do with After Codecs. I gotta open a timer right here, so actually see how much time it takes to render 5 seconds with this brand new update. So go ahead and hit export, start a timer. Okay, that's done. So for 5 second 8K 60 frames per second footage in the H.264 and 30 megabytes per second, it takes only 57 seconds to finish. Let's actually do the same thing but with After Codec this time, which is my old rendering workflow. We're gonna use MP4 and go ahead and open After Codec setting. We're gonna use the H.264 and then bitrate we're gonna use. So everything we can let as default. Again, go ahead and make sure timer is ready. Go ahead and hit OK right here. So bring up the timer. Let's go ahead and hit export. So now we actually passed 1 minute. Oh, it just stopped. So with After Codec with the same render setting, it took After Codec 1 minute 6 seconds. Compared to Premiere, only takes 50 seconds. And now let's take a look at the other render. Besides H.264, you can actually also do HEVC, which is H.265 render. And as you see, if you hit mesh sort, H.265 can also go up to 8K mono. And the target bitrate, unfortunately, maxed out in 120 megabytes per second compared to the old version of Premiere, which maxed out in 60 megabytes per second. But let's see how fast is H.265 render right now. Okay, it just finished. It's almost take 2 minutes and 30 seconds for a machine to render. So that is like 1.5 slower than just the native H.264 render. Let's do the final test and test in After Codec, see how long it takes to render H.265. So with After Codec with H.265, you can actually set the megabyte per second past 200. So if you want to have a high bitrate video with H.265, that is right now still the only option. It's using After Codecs. So go ahead and hit OK. Okay, as you see, the After Codec H.265 is slightly faster than the Premiere H.265 render. It's about like 20 seconds faster. But can Premiere render even bigger file size, like 8K stereo? So let's go ahead and import the 8K stereo file. So here we have a stereoscopic footage of a breakdancing music video I did, shot with the Candle Obsidian. As you see, it's 8K times 8K and 30 frames per second. So right here, I can up the frame rate to just 50 frames per second just for testing. And I'm also gonna up the sequence size to 8192. So 8192 is actually the true 8K size. So that is the max 8K if you want to render 8K. So go ahead, set to frame size and just scale this up to fill the entire frame. So now go ahead, I pick 5 seconds. So in H.264, in the brand new Premiere, and go ahead and hit match source. So it's 8K times 8K with 60 frames per second. So that is the input, that is the output. And then right here, as you see in stereoscopic, your output can actually go all the way to 2000 megabits per second. That is insane. Absolutely. We definitely don't need that. So I think 400 in here should be good enough because it's stereo, it's 60 frames. And even that will be overkill for this bit. But I will just go ahead and set this setting and go ahead and hit export. But before that, let's turn on the timer. So we just finished. This one take a lot longer now. It literally takes 13 minutes because this double of the file size is 8K times 8K. Technically, this is 16K render with 60 frames per second and a little bit upscale. So it take Premiere a lot of time to render, but still that is pretty fast compared to what we have in the old time. So there you go. That is the testing of the brand new Adobe Premiere Pro H.264 render. Hope you like it.
Thank you for watching. If you want to keep up to date on the latest development of the Adobe Premiere and After Effects in regarding 360 VR post-production, don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel. And while you're on it, give me a thumb up and a shout out maybe on your Twitter or Facebook. If you are one of those skeptical Adobe users, can't blame you because I am one of those. But I can tell you from being in the pre-release program in the past couple months, Adobe put in lots of work on making Premiere better for 360 VR editors. So give it a spin, and if you don't like it, just roll back to the old version. Comment below and tell me if you like or dislike the new version, or if you come across any new bugs, and I will see you next time.